Hi there, this is Michelle Rayburn, the host of Indie Author Blueprint. And today we're going to be talking about going beyond writing and looking at something that often gets overlooked in the excitement of writing, and that is the craft of publishing. We often talk of learning the craft of writing. It isn't something that happens overnight, but as indie authors, we're not just writers, we're publishers. And learning to master publishing is what transforms us from hobbyists into professional writers. Writing a book is one thing, but publishing it, getting it out into the world, shaping it into something that readers will cherish and remember, that's a whole other level. Today, I want to encourage you to look at publishing not as just a single step after writing, but as an extension of your creative process. There is a craft to learning how to publish your book. When we take so long to learn how to write well, why is it that so many writers think they can publish in a weekend? There's nothing to learn and then it can be mastered overnight? We know that's not true. We would laugh at someone if they said they could write a novel in a weekend and it would be good to go. So when you finish your manuscript, it's like a blank canvas ready to become something more. It isn't ready because it's just words on a page. The publishing process is what takes your vision, your ideas, your story, and brings it to the reader. And so it's incomplete without the publishing process of your book. So this is where the art comes in. It's not just about hitting publish and hoping for the best. No, publishing is about taking your creation and presenting it to the world in its best form. It's about paying attention to every detail, from the cover design that draws readers in to the formatting that ensures your words look as beautiful on the page as they felt in your heart when you put them down on that page. That's why there's so many different lessons in Indie Author Blueprint. This is a process, and I've given you lots of tools where you can learn that process. Publishing is a commitment. It's the part where you stop dabbling and you start really building something real. A published book isn't just a reflection of your writing. It's more of a representation of your dedication to the entire craft. So the art of publishing means learning the skills that elevate your work to a professional level. It's about editing with an eye for nuance, designing with intention, and creating a reading experience that feels seamless. Publishing requires a level of craft that many writers overlook, but it's what separates the author who's just playing around from the author who's serious about their writing. But what does mastering publishing really look like for you as the indie author? First and foremost, publishing is about ownership. Unlike traditional publishing, where you might feel like just a small part of a big machine, indie publishing puts you in the driver's seat. You're the one who decides how your book will look, how it will feel in the reader's hands, and how it will be seen in the marketplace. It's your vision, but with a full understanding of the process and the power to bring it to life. Learning the craft of publishing is about gaining expertise in each step of the process. So let's break it down. The first thing we think about is that the power of storytelling is through design. When you're writing, your primary tool is language, and that's super important. No matter how your book is designed, that story is very important. But then when you're publishing, your tool set expands. A good design isn't just pretty, it's purposeful. It's how you catch the reader's eye, how you entice them to pick up your book, from your cover design to your interior layout. But then you're combining visual and written storytelling. You are learning how to craft each piece, the cover, the title page, the formatting, so that it complements the message of your book. Your design is the first story you tell, and it's how you help people navigate through your book. Number 2, editing with precision and purpose. This isn't just about fixing typos. Editing is where your manuscript truly comes into focus. It's where you refine your story, tighten your words, and ensure that every word serves its purpose. Good editing isn't just about removing mistakes. It's about enhancing your voice and sharpening your narrative. You learn how to give your words the space they need to breathe, also while ensuring they make the impact they were meant to. So editing is an art of precision, and it's a craft that every indie author must master. And now you might not be the final editor, because you're going to need to hire people to fill in those gaps. But you need to understand how to even find a good editor and know that whether or not what they're telling you to do is good advice. And so when you know what it takes to go into the editing, you're able to evaluate the feedback you receive from an editor. You might have somebody who's coaching you through the developmental part, somebody who's copy editing, and somebody who's proofreading. The third thing that we think about is that formatting is an extension of your voice. Formatting sounds technical, but it's actually an art that reflects the care and attention you've given your words. A well-formatted book isn't just easy to read, it's also a reflection of your professionalism and your respect for the reader. When I'm designing a book, I'm often thinking about how is the reader going to navigate through? Is there a way that I can make it really easy to find the main chapters? Or is there a way I can divide the sections in a way that they can very easily find where those section breaks are? The way your book flows on the page matters. Whether it's the margins, not making them too small, fonts, not making that too small, the chapter headings, or the space between paragraphs, every detail contributes to the reader's experience. So formatting is how you make your book feel as well as how it looks. Now, this is where it can get tricky. You might think, I just want to get my book out there. Why does all of this matter? That's understandable, and that's a valid question. But here's the truth. Publishing isn't something you do halfway. It's a craft that demands full investment. And when you commit to that investment, the payoff is much greater. And so when you're the one in charge of the publishing process, you just have more on your plate than you do if you're having somebody else do some of these steps. Many writers get excited about the idea of publishing, but then treat it like an afterthought. They slap a cover on their manuscript and they click publish and they call it a day. They don't really think about, does this book even stand up next to something else in the industry? But the authors who truly succeed and the ones who make an impact, the ones who build an audience, become recognized as professionals, can do a book too and still have that one sell, they're the ones who are treating publishing as an art and not a quick fix. When you approach publishing as a craft, you also then begin to understand the business side of things in a new way. The decisions you make, like pricing, distribution, marketing, they aren't just business moves, they're also creative moves. They're choices that shape how your work is experienced. You learn how to present your work to the world in a way that aligns with your vision. You craft a presence in the marketplace that supports your goals as an author, while always keeping the reader experience at the heart of it. That's why we edit well. The reader experience is better when we edit well. It's why we design in a way that they can read the book without having their eyes feel exhausted because we used too small of a font. And here's the final piece of the puzzle, the connection you make with the readers. Publishing is an ongoing process, so once your book's out there, the work doesn't stop. You continue to engage with your audience and you learn from their feedback. You refine your approach. The art of publishing doesn't end then when the book is on the shelf. It's a dynamic living process that grows with you as an author and as a creative entrepreneur. And if you watch how traditional publishers do it, you'll see that this is how it worked for them as well. I've seen a few traditionally published books that have been out there and selling well get new covers. And part of it is because the book's been around for a while and art has changed and what speaks to the reader has changed. And so there's some redesigning that goes into it and re-releasing. And so it's important to understand that you aren't alone in that. This dynamic process of continuing to speak to new readers is an ongoing thing. So if you're an indie author who's serious about your craft, don't just focus on the writing. Dive into the art of publishing as well. Learn how to shape your book into something more than just words, looking at shaping your vision, your voice, and your story, all brought together with care and precision and purpose. Don't be afraid to invest the time to learn it because you're not just producing that book, you're crafting that experience for your readers. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with a few questions to reflect on. I encourage you to take some time this week to really think about your approach to publishing and whether you're treating it as an art and thinking about what it takes to be intentional and full of care, or seeing if you've been treating it like an afterthought and there are some changes that you want to make. So here's some things to consider. One, how much time and effort do you spend on the non-writing parts of your book? Do you find yourself rushing through the publishing process just to get it out there? Or do you take the time to carefully consider things like cover design, formatting, and the details that impact the reader's experience? And if the answer to that is less than what you think you'd like to be spending on those non-writing parts, then it's time to go looking for the resources and figuring out where those gaps are. The second thing to think about is, when was the last time you invested in learning more about the business and craft of publishing? Whether it's taking a course, reading a book, diving into the finer points, how proactive are you in learning about the publishing world? Now, if you're a subscriber to Indie Author Blueprint, you know that there's a lot of content here, so maybe you don't need to take a course. You can go back and listen to some of the episodes, look at the tutorials that I have, and then if you're a paid subscriber, there's even a deeper level on interacting with each of those things that I've already put out there. And so I cover a lot of the business and the craft of publishing here on Indie Author Blueprint. And number 3, take a look at what you've been working on so far or what you've already published. Does your book look and feel the way a reader who's reading that genre would expect it to? Think about your cover. Does it match the tone of your book? Does it stand next to other books in the genre and look like they're friends? Does it look like it belongs there with books in that genre? Or does it look like maybe it's off a little bit and it should be in a redesign because it looks like it's a different genre? A good example is that sometimes I've seen fiction look like nonfiction and vice versa. And so that's just one tiny example. Does your book's presentation reflect the effort that you've put into writing it? If it doesn't, where could you do some improving? Number 4, are you treating publishing like a hobby or a career? Now, if you want to treat it as a hobby, that's it right there. This is you do you. So I'm not telling you what you have to do. If it's a hobby, it's a hobby. But if you want it to be a career and you're treating it like a hobby, that's where this is the hardest question to ask yourself. Are you treating the publishing process with the same care and dedication you would if you were publishing through a traditional publisher and if you were making a career of it there? Or are you treating it as something just to check off the list and get it over with and move forward? Number 5, what does success look like for you as a published author? Is it about seeing your book in print? Is it about building an audience? Is it about creating something that lasts, a book that leaves a mark, whether it's with a few readers or thousands? Think about what truly motivates you and how publishing plays into that vision. Once you've thought through some of those kinds of questions, I challenge you to set some small goals for yourself so that you can take a next step. And here's a few tasks you can take on if maybe in the next few weeks, if you're somebody who thinks, yes, I need to take a next step. I don't know where to begin. Well, the first thing you could do is revisit your publishing checklist. I also have some of these in previous episodes, but maybe you have your own. Take a look at every step in your process and look and see, where can I improve it? What is an area where you're skipping or rushing through that could use more attention? Maybe you've dedicated plenty of resources to hiring an editor, but maybe you're DIYing a couple of things like your cover where you might need to have a designer. And the second thing is investing in one publishing related skill. This can be super overwhelming, so I encourage you to break it down into one skill that you want to hone at a time. So whether it's learning how to format your book better, improving cover design, understanding how to write a more compelling author bio or book description, maybe that's the part you need to focus on. Whatever it is, figure out how to set aside time just to focus on that and make it a priority without all the other overwhelming things in there. Number 3, evaluate your book's presentation. If it's published already, go ahead and still look at it. If you're in the process of publishing, take a fresh look at it. Look at the book's cover, the interior design, the layout. Is there any way that you can enhance it after you compare it to some other books that you've seen? You can see if it's ready to be out there or not. And the question is, does this represent your best work? Because ultimately, you're the one doing those final publishing decisions. And then lastly, you might want to set a publishing goal for the next quarter, maybe a little farther out, where it's a few more steps that you want to tackle, or maybe a marketing strategy, or maybe you've already published on something like KDP, which I talk about a lot here, but maybe you want to master a platform like Ingram Spark and figuring out what does it mean to release my book there as well. Get really specific about where you think you'd like to go with that learning, and then set a few small goals on how you might get there, what you need to learn in order to get there. I've become a lot more relaxed and loose with some of my goals because I want everyday life to be as interruptible as it needs to be. If family needs you, or if I need to just take a mental health day, I need a break, I don't want to be so rigid with my goals that my own mental health or physical well-being suffers. But I also like to have an idea of where I'm going. And so that's why having a written down goal helps to kind of keeps it in my mind. I know where I'm going with the learning that I'm doing. I want to encourage you then, as we wrap up, not to rush through the publishing process just to say it's done. Instead, I encourage you to embrace it as a creative and artistic part of your journey as a writer. You're an indie author publisher, which is different than an author. You're adding that publisher level on there. When you treat publishing as an art form, then you'll see your work, including your writing, your book, and your message, transform in ways you may not have expected. I have found it awakens my creativity when I'm writing and I begin to think of creative ways I could present this message. And I'll tell you just a little aside here, if that happens while I'm writing, I just make a little note right there or in the margin. Like if something creative comes up, I just make a note. During typesetting, it would be really cool if I could do this way. The creativity starts to really weave together, and I really love that. I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope this episode has sparked some ideas for you. And if so, I'd love to hear what you're reflecting on. You can find me on Indie Author Blueprint on Substack, and you can leave a comment when this post goes up there. You can find my email there by replying when you subscribe. You can just reply to an email that you get from me and respond. And just let me know what you're up to. I'd love to hear how you're treating publishing like the craft that it truly is. Until next time, I'm Michelle Rayburn, and this has been Indie Author Blueprint. I'm going to look for you on Substack. Reach out and say something on Notes. I really want to interact with you there. Stay creative and keep publishing your best work, and I look forward to celebrating that book with you when it comes out.